It's interesting, and I guess in this age of pulling receipts, I have to stay consistent for things I was saying going all the way back to the end of last season. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to somebody who just suffered a significant injury that way. And I wish him a speedy recovery and hope he gets a chance to rekindle his NFL career. But I felt the Dolphins should have moved on from Tyreek Hill. And I know a lot of people think that mindset was crazy. I just felt that by the end of the season, I understand the talent. I understand the fact that the team was essentially built around Tua's ability to play this very specific offense and Tyreek and Waddle's ability to open things up and starting with Tyreek. I get it. I totally get it. But it hadn't yielded the results that everybody wanted. And I just felt that Tyreek had become problematic. I thought he had become problematic away from the building. I felt that when he was at the building, he wasn't always at the building. You know, there's plenty of stories that have been heard about practice habits or you know, maybe not practice habits, but habits of getting to practice, whether it's on time, whether it's being there at all. I just think there were a lot of things that were not conducive to being in a captain's position, to being somebody that, because of who he is, so many young players looked up to and start to think that they can handle themselves the way Cheetah does. I find that could be problematic. And I just felt that he had let his head coach down in a lot of ways. And I talked a little bit about this last week. And so I did feel that they would sacrifice the talent in doing that, but that I felt that they needed to do it. I felt he was embarrassing the brand in a lot of ways. And so he came back. That was a decision they made. Some of it might have been financial. Some of it might have been the way Alan's looking at me like I'm crazy. And they felt that you can't get rid of a guy who's that talented. So I understand that. So the point that I'm making is that I felt they should have moved on from him and that it was worth the sacrifice. And that now they are in a position, Juice, to your point, where, you know, they probably have relied on the pass too much. There are probably times where they should be running the ball more, especially, I think, with some of the things that we believe Ollie Gordon could be, especially with Devon Achane, who seems to become more important and more dynamic each and every week. And I don't know what it's like in that huddle, but I have to imagine Tyreek is in Tua's ear. I don't know what it's like on the sideline, but I have to imagine Tyreek is in Mike McDaniel's ear. And now they can just play the game in the way the offense dictates. I'm not saying they're going to be better, Alan. And I'm not saying that I reiterate, there's nobody, I'm coming right to you, there's nobody that's going to strike fear in the heart of opposing defensive coordinators the way Tyreek Hill did. I understand that, but I'm okay with that.
Can I make a couple of quick points?
It's all yours now. I had to get that out. Get that out. Go ahead, eviscerate me.
Two quick things, because I was always against the idea of trading Tyreek. Number one, when this offense with this nucleus was at its best, and by far the guy who was making the plays, who was the difference maker, who was putting it over the top, was Tyreek Hill.
Sure.
And it's not even close. We're talking about 2023 when the Dolphins were 11-4. Tyreek would, chances are, would get.
He was going for 2,000 yards. Yeah.
Hold on. If he doesn't get the high ankle sprain in the Monday night game against Tennessee, he gets 2,000 yards. I don't know that they beat Baltimore or Buffalo at the end of the year or Kansas in the playoff game, but who knows? And then last year there were other issues, and then he started to breaking down. The other problem with I was okay with trading Tyreek if you're completely resetting. That's part one, and part B would be, because if the Dolphins had hopes of going anywhere in 2025, as in playoff, that elusive playoff win, you're not getting there. I don't think you get there without Tyreek. I think they had a shot with Tyreek. And then the last thing I will say is, to me, he became a distressed asset after what happened last year. And this is also me saying, why in the absolute hell did they give him restructure his contract last September when they didn't have to?
Yeah.
We say that a lot, Alan. We do. We talk about the contract situations on quite a few players with this football team, and we won't mention any names. Now, my question to you, though,
Jalen Ramsey. I'll mention him.
That name. There's another guy. Go ahead, Juice. You had a question.
Yeah. My question is this. Now, obviously, you know, we don't have. There's very few teams that have a Tyreek Hill on their roster. You know what I mean? But I do feel that Jaylen Waddle for a lot of reasons. What he did in college, Jaylen Waddle probably would have won the Heisman Trophy if he didn't break his ankle. You know what I mean? And instead, you know, his teammate ended up winning the Heisman Trophy that year. You know, 2, his draft status with us, you know, shows that, you know, top 10 pick, that he's that type of talent. Alan, do you think that Jaylen Waddle, not being a Tyreek Hill, could be a number 1 receiver in this league? Like, most teams only have one number 1. I thought like I said earlier, we have a 1A and 1B. Can Jaylen Waddle be the number 1 receiver in this league and be able to go out there and make plays? Granted, he stays healthy.
Bingo. That's my concern with Jaylen Waddle. The talent is there, and he can make plays, and he will get production. He's a small dude, and he's also had a lot of minor injuries throughout his career. I am concerned whether he's going to hold up as being the number 1 guy, especially if you feed him a lot. He's going to get probably muscled at the line of scrimmage quite a bit. That's my concern with him.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate that people get muscled on the line of scrimmage, especially when they're that damn quick and that damn fast. Because I got muscled because I wasn't fast, but I was quick. So these dudes, man, all you do honestly is work on your releases. If you can get off the ball, which is some of the hardest things to do in the NFL, because most corners, what they want to do is just disrupt you. All they care about is disrupting you, throwing off timing, especially when you're playing against the Miami Dolphins, when timing is everything. So why not get up and press? I'm shocked that guys with speed like that and quickness like that can't beat whatever threat they have in front of them in terms of releases. And if they get muscled, that's a problem, because you want muscle. You want to dare people to come up in your face and challenge you, because if they miss, it's a big miss, and that's a problem. Yeah.
But so where are they losing, Juice? Is it their hands? Is it where are they losing if they're getting hung up there at the line?
They shouldn't be getting hung up. I don't know where.
No, I understand, but I'm saying why is that happening?
I have no idea, Big Seth. You know what I mean? A lot of times DBs have nothing to fear, because there's usually help over the top. And that's what we've been seeing.
So they can get more aggressive.
Shell, some type of thing. So if they miss, if you're playing 2-man, if they're playing 2-man, they can miss all they want, because they're going to play trail technique anyways. You know, and they've got help over the top with a safety. So what they want to do for us against our guys is disrupt them as much as possible and not worry about missing. If you see a single high safety and they've got one-on-one, you're not going to see as much press, or you're not going to see as much of aggression. You're not going to see as many quick jams or things like that, because if they miss, they're in trouble. These guys are not worried about it, because they're not worried about – they know they have help somewhere. And all the time, most of the time out there on the football field, DBs have some type of help, whether it's a center high help when they want to funnel you inside, or too high help, whatever. There's going to be some help somewhere that they're not too worried about. But when they've got some pressing situations where there's no help, they're not going to be as aggressive. But most of the time against our team, they say, you know what, press these guys, give them some help over the top, and then the corners don't have to worry about it as much.
I just one more point that I want to make, and then I'm going to go off script a little bit just so we can stay on time here. And Alan, I don't disagree with you. 2023 was magical for 3/4 of the season, and Tyreek was doing things that really we had never seen, right? Not just down here. I mean, he was potentially going to do something that had never been done in this league, and it was so much fun to watch. But then not only did he get injured, but the league kind of caught up to whatever the Dolphins were doing offensively. How many times did we hear too high and get sick of hearing too high? And for a lot of different reasons, the Dolphins were never able to crack that code. And I don't think they've ever gotten back to.
You don't think that was happening, though, at times in 2022 and 2023? Wes Welker in November 2022, in a weekly media session, said he'd never seen two high safeties played as much as he's seen played against the Dolphins.
I understand that, but they couldn't find a solution. What I'm saying is,
it wasn't. I'm sorry, Seth, but it wasn't purely schematic. The defense had figured out the Dolphins. There were other issues at play, including the fact that Tyreek had health issues beyond the wrist last year. Number one. Number two, there were trust issues with the offensive line. Number three, there was a reluctance from Tua to chuck it deep if the guy wasn't totally open. So there were a lot of factors. It wasn't just defenses that figured it out. We can't run the ball, so they were all backing up.
I don't disagree with anything you just said, but the point that I'm making is that the magic of 2023 disappeared. Okay. And it didn't mean that they couldn't play anymore and that they didn't have moments where they were dynamic offensively, but the magic of 2023, the idea that they could line up and have a one-play drive at any time kind of disappeared. And so holding on to Tyreek because of that, we may never have seen it again anyway, even if he didn't get injured. And that's all I was saying, is that I was willing to make that not that anybody was asking me, but I was willing to make that sacrifice because of all of the other things
Well,
that
what
I
would
felt
you
were no longer
what would you
working.
have gotten for him though in a trade this offseason?
What would I have gotten?
And would it have been worth it?
For me, him not being here anymore would have been worth
Wow.
it. Yeah, that's how I felt. I felt that way about him and Ramsey.
Yeah.
And I'm being straight up. And now I am not happy that man was hurt. I am not happy about that. If he was going to be here, then he's got to be an important part of the team, right? And everything we saw from him, Juice, we were talking about this in the text thread with Travis today. He was, all you heard is about how he was doing everything the right way. You saw that. I almost felt, and this is just total conjecture, just having been around the league as long as I have been, that him not being named a captain and understanding why he wasn't, he kind of, and he said to you guys, I don't need to have a C on my chest to lead. And I think he made a real concerted effort to be a legitimate leader as a result. Like maybe that was a wake-up call or whatever it was. And I don't know what was happening when we couldn't see what was happening. But I just felt all the energy that we saw in his interviews, on the field, all of that stuff. I just still felt that with everything else that was going on with this team, Mike McDaniel has some strengths, and I think Mike McDaniel has some weaknesses. And one of those is the way that he was leading that locker room, I think, and letting the wrong guys have really the floor. And I just felt that he was going to be more destructive than constructive. That was just what I felt. We shall see what happens.
Yep.
We should, a month from now, you might be texting me going, hey, Seth, remember when you thought this was a good idea? I tried to tell y'all. So you might come back on the show and that could be, I tried to tell y'all. I don't know.